Can I say it's a privilege to speak alongside Rishanara, and she will make an excellent representative for the people of Bethnal Green and Bow. We're very proud of what you're doing in the East End. Thank you, Rishanara. You know, it's time to see an end to the old politics and to change our politics for good. And in the week to come, I will travel around the country, speaking with the British people and seeking your support. But all politicians of every party and at every level must acknowledge there has been a fundamental rupture in the bond of trust between those who serve and those they are sworn to serve. And I believe we cannot truly master all the big challenges facing our country: economic recovery, public service reform, climate change, social care, these great challenges, unless the legitimacy of our democracy is fully restored. So I'm asking the British people for a mandate to undertake the most comprehensive programme of constitutional reform in this country for a century. Yes, I want to secure the recovery, and we will never put it at risk. Yes, I want to protect and reform our frontline services, but I also want to rebuild faith in public life. And so Labour's manifesto will be about more than securing victory for our party. It's about securing the British people's pride in our history as the country of the greatest democratic promise, the home of the mother of all parliaments, and the nation whose abiding ideals have inspired the world. And today I want to set out our comprehensive plan to forge a new contract between the public and those who serve the public. Because I would take no pride in walking through the door of number 10 again, take no joy in victory if it comes without a mandate to get rid of all the old aspects of a discredited system of politics and replace it with a new system that ensure that people who hold positions of authority are more accountable to and fully representative of the ordinary men and women of this great country. Because I came into public life with one aim above all others: to do my duty by the country I love. Now, these changes I'm going to announce today are no substitute for good character, but they are a long overdue recognition that our politics does need fundamental reform to meet the high standards for accountability and transparency that today's society demands and deserves. So this is my commitment and the mandate I seek: that MPs will be banned from working for lobbying companies, that MPs who want to take up paid outside appointment will have to seek prior approval from an independent body to avoid jobs which conflict with the responsibilities to the public. And we need to ensure that MPs are permanently accountable to the people. That's why I want the people to have the right in future to recall members of Parliament where these members are guilty of gross financial misconduct and Parliament does not act. But a new politics does not simply mean constraining the behaviour of individual MPs who do wrong. It also means strengthening the power of Parliament to hold the executive to account. The British people will be given a new right to petition the House of Commons to trigger debates on issues of significant public concern. And to make this a reality, we have supported changes to give a stronger voice to backbenchers. So in the next Parliament, select committees of members of Parliament and the chairs will be elected by a secret ballot of MPs for the first time. And let me say to you today also that Labour's manifesto will conclude our commitment to charting a course for this country to a written constitution. And after citizenship education has improved in our schools, we are going to give Parliament a free vote on reducing the voting age to 16. And in order to reassure people in this new century that the executive will no longer be able to determine when it should put itself forward for the people's approval, Labour's manifesto will also include a new commitment to fixed-term parliaments. I believe that reform must be even more fundamental still. That's why I can also announce today that if Labour prevails in this election, the British people will make the choice on the central questions of our constitutional future in a referendum next August. That will rightly give people the final word. And so I'm proposing a referendum, first on changing the House of Commons for the better and forever. I want the reform of the electoral system so that no member of Parliament is elected without the majority support of those who vote in their constituencies. And second, on changing the House of Lords, root and branch. I want the British people to be served by an elected House of Lords. We will ensure that the hereditary principle is removed from the House of Lords, despite the Conservatives' determination to block all change in the current constitutional reform bill. And once we have removed the hereditary principle, further democratic reform to create an elected second chamber will then be achieved in stages. At the end of the next Parliament, 1/3 of the House of Lords will be elected. A further 1/3 of members will be elected at the general election after that. Until the final stage is agreed, the representation of all groups should be maintained in equal proportions to now. We will consult widely on these proposals on an open list proportional representation electoral system for the second chamber before putting these to the people in a referendum early in the new Parliament before October 2011. And the outcome, which is reform not just for our time, but for a new century of democracy, will not be decided by me. Britain's democratic future will not belong to any politician or to any party. It will be up to the people voting in a referendum. And I believe that this is so important that all parties should come together to campaign for a common programme of reform. On some issues, we're agreed. But on too many, the Conservative Party, for all their talk of change, remain hostile to fundamental change in our politics that people so clearly seek. We are committed to democratic reform of the House of Lords in the next Parliament. They, unfortunately, are not. And even this week, they have blocked reforms to the way hereditary peers are still able to sit in the House of Lords. We are committed to letting the people decide on a more legitimate way of electing members of Parliament. But our proposals were blocked yesterday by a Conservative Party that likes to talk about change but never to deliver it. And so I know that this is a road which progressives will have to walk together alone. I know the struggle always continues, and so if further change is needed, we will make it. Because more, far more, is now at issue than the revolving door of power shifting between parties. Too much of our politics has been a closed shop to too many people for too long. So this election is about more than whether we change parties, it's about whether we change our public life. And I ask our fellow citizens to give us the mandate, and we will not only protect the recovery, but act to recover the public's trust. We will not only safeguard the public services, but we will rejuvenate public service. We have been through the turbulence of a global recession that hit all across our country, and a political corrosion that knew no party lines. We have weathered the storm, and Britain was never broken by it. But now we look forward in hope. Now a new prosperity, a fairer society, and a truer democracy are within our grasp. That, simply put, is the whole cause of our campaign. And today I ask for your vote, not merely for a set of programs, but for the sacred principle that our democracy belongs to you, and not just at election times, but all the time. I ask for your vote, and I pledge a future where your voices will be heard and your values will be honoured. That can be the Britain of the future. It is a Britain where there is a future fair for all. Thank you all very much. Thank you.